to be doing what he's doing at 15 in the FA Youth Cup, it's really, really special. You know, some of the small touches, small technical details, turns away from pressure and kind of understanding of what's around him.
Jay here for Stretford Paddock. That's Finn, otherwise known as Academy Scoop, on all your socials. And this is Academy Review, where we look at United's younger sides and see how they're getting on. Finn, how are we doing?
Yeah, very well.
Yeah.
It's been a very good week for the Academy. We've got 2 big under-18 games to talk about. I'm a little bit bored because I missed.
It's a good start to a vid. I'm bored. Can I do something else? No.
I'm actually excited to see United play, and I'm a little bit bored without them. But
yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because what was it like 12 days or something, or maybe a bit longer without a first team game. But thankfully, the Academy team has stepped up, and it's been a happy time, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll go in kind of reverse order for this one. We'll talk about the FA Youth Cup first, because that's always the big one. But we've also got a derby to talk about, which is lovely.
I can't wait for this.
But yeah, so on Wednesday, United travelled away to Oxford United at the Kassam Stadium in the round of 16 of the FA Youth Cup. Obviously, it's the premier youth competition in this country.
This is the one that even like laymen like myself, we know about the FA Youth Cup.
As you always say, it's the big one.
It is the big one, isn't it? Yeah. It's the one that everyone talks about, the FA Youth Cup. Remember when United won the FA Youth Cup in the Class of 92 and all the Pogba era, or obviously more recently with Garnacho and Mainu and all the rest of it. So we always look at the FA Youth Cup as being the sort of the pinnacle of Academy football. Whether that's right or wrong, that's how it's often viewed, isn't it? It's very, very memorable when we win this trophy. And I think that we still got the best record in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we still have 11 wins in it, which I think is 1 or 2 better than Chelsea, who are next best. So we got a lot of legacy in this competition. And I think there's a reason it's seen as the most prestigious competition. You know, the amount of top players who come out of FA Youth Cup winning sides, or even sides that just go far in the competition. You see a lot of correlation between that and having a really good career in English football. So there's a reason it's seen as the big one, and United are always having their sights set on it. So this season is no different. It was really, really good to see as well. Michael Carrick made the trip alongside his first team staff, which he doesn't have to do it. It's not in his contract, but it shows that he really takes a keen eye and actually cares about the youth, which is so refreshing to see.
You say actually cares, and refreshing to see. And if I was to look between the lines there, Finn, I'd suggest that maybe the previous manager wasn't too keen on doing those sort of things. And when I say the previous manager, I don't mean the previous caretaker and Darren Fletcher. I mean Ruben Amorim.
I completely forgot he existed. So I don't know what you're talking about. It's you don't want to look too far in the past, but I think something that was really sorely lacking under Amorim's tenure was that kind of obvious care for the first team. So to see Michael Carrick step up and really, really take an interest, especially travelling to under 18 away games, travelling down to Oxford, I think that really shows quite a lot, and it means a lot to the kids who are playing, and also to their parents and agents, and everyone around it. Just brings a real good kind of feel good factor to the club. So that's great to see, and it means that when it comes to integrating these young players, they've actually seen them in the flesh, seen what they're about, and have like a really strong idea of their character and their ability. So it can only be a positive. But yeah, it was quite an open start to this game. In the first 10 minutes or so, it was a little bit cagey with chances on either side. One of the big positives was that Jim Thwaites is back in the side. He made his return from injury off the bench against City earlier in the week, and he's a player that he's such an orchestrator in the midfield. He really knits things together for United, and you can tell when he's not in the side that United aren't as good of a team. It was quite clear against Derby County in the previous round that we were lacking what he brings in the midfield, a bit of dynamism, a bit of creativity, that ball retention and kind of press resistance that he always brings, and also leadership. To have him back in the side was massive, and he orchestrated that first goal. United opened the scoring after 12 minutes from a corner. Jim Thwaites' set-piece delivery, that's his bread and butter, to the head of Albert Mills, who rose above everyone else in the box and headed in to open the scoring for United.
Love that. Yeah, I know you've been a massive Jim Thwaites fan over the past couple of years. You keep sort of telling us how well he's doing, how good he is, and I know on Dead Balls, you've mentioned him quite a lot as well. He's got that element to his game, so it's good to see him back in the side and doing well. And there's been a little bit more noise around Jim Thwaites lately, I think, because he's come back into the side and he's reminding everyone just how good he is. And people looking at, how long is it going to be till he sort of starts making waves in the first team? Do you see him getting into the United first team eventually? Do you think he's got that quality that he could become a first-team player for Manchester United?
I think in terms of quality, there's absolutely no question. Yeah. He's absolutely at the level that I've seen other top midfield prospects make it at United and other big clubs. The quality is not, he's so consistent as well. I think you always know what to expect from him, and it seems like he never really has a bad game or an off day, and he's always involved, and he's always kind of setting the tempo and kind of, pulling things together. The only concern, especially at United and in the modern era, is that he's obviously not the largest physical presence. He's not very tall. I think he might be 5'7", 5'8". So, almost more in the kind of Spanish mould of traditional midfielder, your Xavis and Iniestas, rather than someone that you'd associate breaking through in English football, which I think, to be honest, is a problem with how we promote youth in England and how we kind of develop, especially midfielders. It's rare to see a really kind of diminutive style of midfielder make that breakthrough, especially, when they're younger. So it's going to be interesting to see if the pathway is there for him and, if he's going to get a chance. I really hope he does. I think back to someone like Ethan Galbraith, who maybe is a similar style of midfielder, who did really well at United in a similar way and at a similar age, but again, didn't have those kind of really strong physical traits that maybe a McTominay did, and that maybe that's why someone like him got the chances he did. So it's really difficult, but I hope that we can kind of learn from mistakes of the past and give him the opportunity that he deserves, because on quality, he absolutely deserves it.
I understand that it's a physical game and you need a certain level to be able to mix it, but some of these players don't need to be the biggest or the strongest or the quickest.
No.
They can make up for that with the amount of, the talent they've got, the ability on the ball they've got. They can do things that other players can't do. And look, we had this argument at the beginning of the season, even until about 2 months ago, when Kobbie Mainoo wasn't getting in the side, and we had morons saying, well, he's not physical enough for the Premier League. He's like, what are you on about? You can see what he brings to any side. See how good he is. You see what he's done in the Premier League, what he's done for Manchester United. Not everyone has to be a sort of marauding 6'3" physical midfielder. You can have someone who's very good on the ball and does the things that you've mentioned that Jim Thwaites can do. Now, look, he might not make it. He might not get into the first team, because obviously midfield it's very difficult as well. It's one of those areas where it is quite rare for a player to break through at a young age into Manchester United midfield. But it pains me when I see this sort of constant argument we have about, is he physical enough, and we go down a different route. And look, there's always going to be a place for those physical, strong, quick midfielders, but you need someone who can do the other things as well.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you've told us many, many times on this channel, Jim Thwaites has got those attributes.
Yeah, the top level intelligence, understanding of how to play the game as a midfielder, and the just supreme technical ability. It really does go a long way in compensating for any lack of height or physicality. So yeah, I really, really hope he gets a chance. But anyway, he played brilliantly throughout this game. A lot of threat from set pieces, which we always expect. That's kind of he's a master from dead ball situations. But yeah, United, after that first goal, kind of found a groove, played really, really well through that first half, and Oxford weren't really providing much opposition to that. And it was, the star man, Gabriel, who doubled United's lead just before half-time. A really, really fantastic solo effort from distance, maybe 25, 30 yards. Got played the ball by Daniel Armour in the midfield, turned, opened his body up and just let rip from distance. Little bit of luck, maybe a fortunate bounce.
I've seen this, yeah. And are we going to question the goalkeeper somewhat? Where do you stand on that?
Maybe you can, but I think you just have to give credit to JJ Gabriel.
Yeah,
part of the reason the goalkeeper isn't prepared is because he doesn't require much backlift. He's one of these players who can create a lot of power in his shots without much preparation, and I think that can really put a goalkeeper off and stop them from being able to prepare, and then it looks like it's more of a goalkeeper mistake, but really he's forced that error for me. So I think you just have to give credit to the effort, because it's a fantastic goal.
No, it is. I don't want to take anything away from JJ Gabriel, despite whether you argue that the keeper could have done better, and I agree completely with what you're saying. He's sort of caught him a little bit unawares because the way he's hit it, and it is a great goal. Go and check it out. I'm sure you can see it all over the socials. You probably posted on your socials, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Those clips are everywhere, and also compilations of his full performance, because he was just fantastic throughout the game. And I think to be doing what he's doing at 15 in the FA Youth Cup, it's really, really special. You know, some of the small touches, small technical details, turns away from pressure and kind of understanding of what's around him. I think he could already slot into a lot of different positions just because of his intelligence in terms of where he picks up the ball, and sometimes he was picking it up really deep in the midfield, almost as like a deep lying playmaker and spreading play. So yeah, a top performance, and he's continuing to improve. He's got a lot of goals this season, which is already crazy for his age, but he's also developing his all-round game week by week. I'd say his passing is looking a lot more mature, and you know, his passing selection is definitely improving. I saw some early criticism in some of his early performances that he isn't passing enough, but I think that's not really how you evaluate young players, especially at his age when they've got so much attacking threat. I think you have to let a goal scorer try to score goals first. But yeah, he's improving week by week, and it's just really amazing to see a player of his quality at United. And there's always that kind of looming worry and anxiety about if United are going to be able to keep him, but you know,
we've got another year, haven't we?
We've got at least another year. I think things like Michael Carrick attending these games, showing a real interest in the academy. I think we're trending in the right direction as a club, and I think we're kind of getting closer back to our roots in terms of really, really favouring the academy. So I think I've got confidence that we're going to be able to keep him and that he's going to be an important player for United for years to come.
I do wonder. I know, obviously, ultimately it was the lack of transfer activity in January that angered Ruben Amorim and led to that big sort of meltdown and kick-off between him and Jason Wilcox. But I don't think... I always say when a Man United manager gets sacked, it's a series of things that lead to that. It's not just one thing on its own, it's a lot of other things, and then there might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So for Ollie, the 4-1 loss at Watford was the straw that broke the camel's back, but the 5-0 loss at home to Liverpool and the 2-0 loss at home to City and losing the Europa League final and not getting a trophy added up to that with Ten Hag. It wasn't just the loss at West Ham, it was the other things we'd seen. The 7-0 in his first season at Anfield, I think, damaged him. The Anthony signing, things like that, it builds up. And I do think with Amorim, part of the issue that he had wasn't just that maybe the results weren't quite good enough, it was the comments he made about the academy, the fact that JJ Gabriel's dad had noticed some of these comments and didn't appear to be too pleased with them, and Jason Wilcox obviously looking at some of these academy players as being a big part of United's future. I know that's the most obvious statement ever, but especially with JJ Gabriel, how special he could be. And I just wonder if that played a part as well in the board or the hierarchy or Wilcox or Brad, whoever, having some doubts over Ruben Amorim because there wasn't that connection with him in the academy that there should have been at Manchester United. Yeah,
I don't think you can be a successful Manchester United manager and neglect the youth in the way that Amorim did. I know there are counter arguments saying, well, he was under so much pressure, it wasn't the right time to be integrating the youth, but I think we've seen that that's not necessarily true. If you create an environment where you're winning regularly, everyone's happy, there's a good feeling in and around the dressing room, I think you can absolutely be bringing you through even when you haven't got perfect conditions. So I'm just glad to see it trending back in the right direction.
Yeah, and I don't want to keep going on about Ruben Amorim, but it's worth mentioning because obviously this is a big difference that we're seeing in terms of what Michael Carrick's doing, even as much as going to the games, and also just the air of sort of positivity and feeling that the youth are sort of back in vogue, if you will. And we'll have to wait and see what happens in terms of permanent manager. But honestly, the more anyone talks about Michael Carrick and the more we say, just the more I want him to get the job.
Contract on the table. Yeah.
Mate, honestly.
Yeah, and I think this is an academy show, so you don't want to talk about the first team too much, but with the way that some of the other candidates are signing contract extensions or seeming uninterested in the job, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be moaning if United have a good season and end up with Champions League football, and then Michael Carrick gets given a contract, then I wouldn't be moaning. And I don't think any of the academy would be moaning either, because they'll probably look at that as a positive for them.
Absolutely, yeah. Heading on with this game, Chido Obi was next to add a goal. He's been playing really, really well recently, and obviously it's interesting to see him involved with the under-18s. It's kind of expected for the FA Youth Cup, but he also played earlier in the week against City, and I think for some people that rings alarm bells, and people ask, oh, why is he playing for the under-18s? Is that not a backward step? But development isn't linear, and I think these things happen where maybe you drop down and kind of pick up a few confidence goals, and that's all part of development, and it's never just going to be like a straight line trajectory. So yeah, he had a good game, and it was a really, really good wing play from Junior Brown on the left, beat his man, ran it to the byline, and then cut it back for a first-time finish by Chido Obi. Left-footed, really simple first-time finish, but a really high-quality goal. Sometimes those kind of simple goals are some of the best ones and actually hardest to execute, even though they're made to look easy. But yeah, just complete domination from United, really. And yeah, that was 3-0. They did pull one back around the 60th minute. Mo Masinga, who'd been probably their best player, playing on the left wing, created a lot of threat. He took the ball forward on the left. Quite a similar goal to the one United had just scored. He squared it across the box to Josh Holton, late run onto the edge of the box, and he was kind of uncontested, finishing first time. So it was a decent goal. United obviously disappointed to concede, but we had enough of a safety buffer that it wasn't too much of a worry. And then we soon regained that lead, that 3-goal lead, through Noah Ajayi. Another really fantastic goal, this one. He had a ball played over the top on the left, and he took it really, really well. Shrugged off his defender, showed really good physicality to do that. Drove all the way into the box towards goal, beat his marker with a little shimmy, opened his body up and finished well with his left foot. And he's a player, I'll talk about him as well for the Manchester derby that we'll talk about in a minute, but he's someone that's emerged in recent weeks and months as one of the top players in this group. Another first-year scholar who's really starting to, find his groove and pick up some really good performances. And I think he's got a lot of qualities that make him quite a top talent. He's got a fantastic physical base. He's very, very quick, very strong. Maybe 6'1", very tall as well. So he's got a lot of those qualities that you'd look for. Skillful, really good on the ball, can strike it, seems to have a lot of good qualities. So he was fantastic, and this goal showed a lot of what he was capable of, and I think he's really gaining confidence in a United shirt. He's also trained with the first team this season a couple of times, I believe, so definitely a player to keep an eye on. But yeah, that was 4-1, pretty comfortable win for United, and they'll face either Sunderland or Brighton in March. I believe it would be March 14th, in the quarterfinals of the FA Youth Cup.
So either way, it's the Danny Welbeck derby there, isn't it?
Pretty much.
No matter who we get.
Yep.
Good stuff. Always pleased to hear that they're doing well, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about Noah Ajayi. Is that how you pronounce his name? Because like you said there, I've not heard you talk about him a lot. So obviously someone who's sort of emerged as a real top young talent. Just give it to me, Finn. United beating, say, come on.
We had the Manchester derby.
This is what I love to hear. The
weekend before this FA Youth Cup game, Saturday the 19th, it was a really, really big game. Top of the table clash between obviously two massive rivals, and it's the one in terms of the under-18 Premier League North in recent years. It's just been United and City pretty much every year, dominating.
Good versus evil.
Good versus evil. And United came out on top. Pretty happy to see, because it's the past 2 seasons City have been kind of leading this race a little bit. United have been slightly behind them, and so it was really, really good to see United on top on this one. Chido Obi dropped down again on this one because the under-21s game was postponed against Leeds, so United were able to field a really strong 11. A lot of experience in this side now. Players like Jim Thwaites again, who came off the bench, Godwill Kukonki, Dan Armour, Mantato, players who have a lot of experience in under-18 football and can really help you win a game like this. So that was good to see. Kukonki was one of the really, really bright players in the opening 10-15 minutes. Stopped a few City attacks and then constantly drove down the left flank. And I always think that a player of his size should not be able to play the way he does. It's really quite bizarre to see basically a fullback. Obviously he can play centre back as well, but a lot of the time plays as a left back. He's 6'2" or 3", really quite bulky, muscular player, and somehow can glide and kind of weave in and out of players as if he was 5'8", your traditional fullback. It's really, really impressive to see. So the fact that he can do that and the defensive side of the game makes him a really unique player. And he was fantastic. Created a lot of early opportunities. One for Gabriel, which was slightly scuffed, and then another for Chido Obi. And he had a top first half performance. Chido Obi also really, really bright. didn't quite get his opener in the first half, which I think was a little bit unlucky. He had a few efforts, one from a free kick which almost went in just off the post, another after a really, really good run from Noah Ajayi, basically the whole length of the pitch, driving through the middle, and yeah, I think United were knocking on the door for that whole first half and were definitely the better side. Obviously City have so much quality. They're the league leaders. I think going into this game, United were 4 points behind them, but they had 2 games in hand, so they've already kind of run away with the. Yeah, I mean they're obviously cheating, so that's what you can put it down to. They're all on PEDs allegedly, and
they're all ringers.
Yeah. So otherwise, United would be first in the league, of course. Anyway. Yeah, it was in the second half that United finally found the opener. Gabriel, of course.
That man again, or that boy again, I should say. He's only a man.
Yeah, youngest player on the pitch by a distance, and he opened the scoring. It was really good pressing from the front from United. Chido Obi kind of dispossessed one of City's defenders, and then Gabriel latched onto it, cut across his man, and then a really quick first-time finish into the bottom left corner. And again, it was another goal where his speed of execution is so fast that everyone around him looks completely unprepared and completely kind of wrong-footed. So City's keeper had no time to respond. He's able to just release shots at exactly the right time with so much venom that there's not much you can do to defend him. And I think outside of the obviously outstanding technical quality that he has, I think that's one of the things that really sets his game apart, is that speed of execution, speed of decision making. Seems like he's decided what he's going to do when he's on, 5 seconds before he's got the ball. He seems to kind of visualise what's going to happen and just executes it so well every time. And I think that's really what sets him apart. It's so impressive to see.
Yeah, is it at that young age as well?
Yeah.
Especially when so you've got so much talent. A lot of players just, it's instinctive, they're almost not thinking. He's obviously got both that. He's got that talent and that instinctiveness, but also he can have a little think beforehand. And it's always like, what Paul Scholes used to be so good at. He knew what he was going to do before he did it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Obviously, he's a different type of player completely, but has that in his locker, and it's so good to see. Every time I hear you talk about him, every time I see anything written about him, every time I watch Gabriel, it's just hard not to get carried away in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It really is.
To be fair, talking about him sounds like you're getting carried away, but it's so rare to see a player of his age doing what he's doing.
Like usually when you have this hype, and you could argue there's not really been this hype about anyone in the academy to this level. Certainly
in the modern era.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't know what people are saying about Bobby Charlton or whatever, but the players that stand out for me as having a lot of hype when I was sort of, since I've been a United fan, have been a younger age. David Beckham was someone at the age of like 15. People were talking about him and saying that there was something about him, and obviously he'd come up from London or from Essex, wherever he's from, and had already been like, not put in the first team, but put in the changing rooms and meeting the first team, and everyone was like, this is someone who's going to be a real, special talent. Giggs obviously was quite different because he almost got in the first team straight away. Yep. As soon as there was hype about Giggs, from what I can remember, he was in the first team, I think, at 17, so you sort of knew about that straight away. It wasn't a case of what he was doing in the academy as such, it was what he did in the first team. Fast forward a little bit further, I think Ravel had an element of that, Paul Pogba had an element of it, Mason Green was another one who because of his numbers and everything everyone was talking about. But I don't know, Gabriel, I think he's probably the one who's had the most noise around him.
I think especially this early at this age.
I can't remember.
He was 14. He was 14 when the season started.
I've not seen that really.
Yeah.
You've had players where Januzaj, everyone was hyping about him, but again he was sort of 17 when it was really starting to happen for him in that respect. But to be 14, to have a lot of noise around you, to have a worry around keeping hold of you,
which is so rare for United as well.
I think we're in uncharted territory here, and the sort of the hype seems to be justified as well whenever you watch him. So it is quite a unique situation. It just makes you so excited and nervous that longer term, can we keep hold of him? Yeah,
I've spoken to a couple of people who work at United and were at the club when the likes of Ravel and Pogba were coming through as well, and they've said that he's certainly in that bracket, comfortably that level of talent. Just really, really good to see and so exciting for the future. Again, he had a really good game against City. I think struggled at points just in terms of physicality. City is such a physical team. That's partly why they've dominated the league so much this season. A lot of their defenders especially have played first team minutes this season. So it's to be expected that, at that age, you're not going to absolutely dominate every single game. But someone who did was Chido Obi, and he found himself finally on the score sheet after so many opportunities in the first half. It was a fantastic ball played by Kokonki on the left, clipped the ball over the top, really, really nice weight on it and a really nice delivery. And Chido chipped the ball over City's keeper really kind of intelligently, and that was 2-0 after, I'd say it was very, very well deserved. City had their opportunities, but United were definitely the better team. And then they pulled one back, so made it a little bit interesting. Tyrone Samba, there was a bit of a kind of mistake at the back. United dispossessed, and the ball fell to Tyrone Samba on the edge of the box. And to be fair, it was a fantastic goal. First time finish from outside the box, top right corner, completely unsavable. Not much you can do about that. Fair
enough. Yeah. Got to give him one, haven't you?
Exactly. But then Jimmy Thwaites,
your mate,
free kick. You know what's going to happen basically every time that he steps up.
You shouldn't just give him a free kick. Just give him a goal. Yeah. Say sack it. You're going to score.
I think in terms of when it comes to games where XG is counted, I think whenever he gets on a free kick, it should be worth like 85, like 0.85 XG.
It's better than a penalty.
Yeah, honestly, it's ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen such consistency on free kicks. It genuinely feels like he's more likely to score them than not when he steps up to a goal scoring.
Do you know what's mad as well is like the best free kick taker I've ever seen was David Beckham. Certainly in terms of consistency and the amount of free kicks he scored and the range of the different variety of free kicks he scored. I think when he was in the academy, there was a time when it was Gary Neville who took the free kicks.
Really?
Yeah, people forget that. Gary Neville used to take free kicks, and then Beckham started taking them, and obviously, the rest is history. Yeah. But yeah, this is the sort of the numbers that Jim Thwaites is putting up from free kicks is just ridiculous.
Yeah. And some of the style of some of them is really interesting as well. We get so much whip on it, and this one in particular, it looked like it was perfectly set up for him to go top right. It looked like if he attempted to go top left, it would be a really, really kind of awkward angle, and yet he went for it and executed it absolutely perfectly. Got the perfect weight and whip on it, and yeah, just so much quality. So to have that in his locker on top of everything else he can do as a midfielder is really impressive, because you do get some players who maybe have that really kind of unique ability from set pieces but maybe aren't as strong in other areas. He's kind of got the lot. So we've spoken about him a lot, but he's a player I really, really enjoy watching, and United are definitely much better when he's in the side. But yeah, that was 3-1, all 3 points away to City. Unfortunately, still trailing in the league, but you take pride from the victory. So
yeah, listen, it's a Manchester derby. It's against a very good side, and United have been well worth their win. So it's great to see. Jim Thwaites doing well again, and I don't know, maybe there's a chance United loan him out. Maybe do a bit of a Jesse Lingard where he goes out on loan for a little while. Well, if he's not getting in the first team anytime soon. I know we're sort of getting ahead of ourselves, but. Yeah. Not every player gets into United's first team, even the age of 20, 21. Some players it's a little bit longer.
What I hope to see is
worth keeping him.
What I hope to see is that we give him enough time to kind of develop, even if he is going to be a late bloomer because of the physicality reasons. So I think something that you can call it a mistake if you want, but we let go of Ethan Galbraith for me earlier than we should have.
Your predecessor on this show,
Dave
absolutely loved Ethan Galbraith. He did.
He is so talented, and to be fair to him, he's making a real career for himself now and doing excellently. So I'm so glad that he's done that. But at the same time, I think if United handled his development a little bit better at the time, maybe given him slightly better loan options and maybe kept him for a season or two longer, I think he might be in and around the first team setup now.
Who was the one that you always talk about that you thought we didn't handle the right way that really should have?
Isaac Hansen.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one that is quite disappointing for me, because his first year in the under-18s was among the best first-year seasons I've seen. He was 15, 16, dominating games. Again, not very physical, but just an absolute magician in the midfield. And for me, the mistake that United made was keeping him in the under-18s because of the physical limitations, rather than pushing him forward to the under-21s and potentially first team. Because for me, that's the way that you toughen up physically, is by playing against players who are bigger than you, not by just dominating the same players that you have already for another season. So development is so hard to predict, and anything can happen. So it's hard to always say, if we'd done this and we'd done this, then he'd be in a different place. That's kind of impossible to say, but it is sometimes disappointing how things play out.
Before I let you go, Finn, I want to ask you a little bit about Godwill Kakonke, because you mentioned there he plays at centre back or left back.
Yeah.
How far off first team football? I know he's still only young, but how far off first team football do you think he could be? Because one of the sort of criticisms, if you will, of Harry Amas, who I love and I think he's a great player, is he's not physical enough or he's not quick enough for Premier League football. That may change, and look, I'll go back to what I said earlier about sometimes we get too caught up in that sort of argument. But Godwill Kakonke is someone who looks like he wouldn't struggle in that side of things. Do you think there is a pathway to him for the first team? Because I'm looking at it next season, I'm thinking left back is an area where United are going to have to bring someone in, because we can't just rely on Luke Shaw. Patrick Dorgu, or Ballon Dorgu, to give him his proper name, is wasted at left back. He should be at the business end of the pitch. So do you think Kakonke could be an option there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely a pathway there. I think between him and Amas, United surely have someone who can contribute to the first team in a few years, if not both of them, in different ways. They are very, very different profiles. They almost couldn't be more different in profile. And that's really good to have that variety in your young players. But I think certainly his physicality, also technical ability for his size is amazing, and especially the versatility, the fact that he can play as a full-back and a centre-back to a really, really similar level. I think that really bodes well for him getting first-team opportunities. And obviously, United have strong options at left centre-back. You've got Lisandro Martinez as the senior option, and then Aidan Heaven, who the club seem to be looking at as a really kind of high-end option for the years to come. So I think there is a lot of competition there, but I think he's got all of the kind of traits that make him another really good option, and I hope that chance does come for him, because he's another player who I think if he went elsewhere, it would be a shame. It would be wasted. So. Yeah,
I'm just hoping that next season, if we can get Champions League football, there's more opportunities.
We've got to stay in all the competitions.
You have to. One of the reasons Fergie had so many players that did so well, young players coming through that did well, is Fergie did a lot of good things with them. So what he'd do is he'd give them a chance. He'd bring them into a team that was successful. There was times at the end of the season, it always sort of a bit of a bugbear of mine when people going about points tallies and all the rest of it. Because Fergie, once the league was wrapped up, he'd just start playing youngsters. He didn't care about trying to break records and points tallies. He wanted young players to get first team experience. Also in Europe, we'd have games where it'd be like we'd already qualified, so you'd have a good opportunity to give youngsters a chance, and he'd do that. Or at the end of games where you're 2 or 3 goals up, you'd see youngsters come on. That's why the class of 92 did so well. One of the reasons, obviously, they're amazingly talented, but they're coming into a successful side, getting minutes and getting brought in gradually rather than thrown in when you're losing and it's like, can you rescue us? So I hope next season we can see a little bit of that. I hope we obviously have more games than 40 in a season, which has just been obviously a bit of a disaster for us this season. So if we have 50 plus games next season, if we can have a few games where you can start turning towards the academy, then from what you've told me about some of these players, then who knows, maybe next season could be their chance to shine. Finn, love chatting to you.
Always
even better when United are winning and the players, the young players that you've been speaking about for quite some time are doing really well. We'll speak to you again next week, and you're going to be on the main channel as well as always. Make sure you go and follow Finn, Academy Scoop, on all your socials, and keep you covered for the Academy and other stuff as well. That's been Finn, I'm Jay. This has been Academy Review. Don't forget to check out a link to the merchandise as well, and thanks for watching.